If you're counting on your Social Security check to arrive on time next month, there's something critical you need to know right now. The Social Security Administration has implemented new verification requirements that take effect November 18th, and thousands of beneficiaries across the country are completely unaware of what's coming. Here's what's happening. The SSA is rolling out enhanced identity confirmation protocols designed to combat fraud. But here's the catch. If you don't complete these steps before the deadline, your December payment could be frozen or significantly delayed. We're not talking about a day or two here. Some beneficiaries who missed similar deadlines in pilot programs earlier this year waited 3 to 6 weeks for their checks to resume. That's rent money, grocery money, prescription costs, all hanging in the balance. The frustrating part? The SSA sent notices about this change, but many were buried in standard mail that looked like junk, and others never arrived at all. Today, I'm walking you through exactly what you need to do, why this deadline matters so much, and the 3 specific steps that will protect your benefits. This isn't optional anymore. It's essential. Let's make sure your check arrives when you need it.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking right now. You're wondering why this is the first time you're hearing about something this important. And honestly, you have every right to be frustrated. The Social Security Administration processes payments for over 67 million Americans every single month. And when they make changes to their systems, the communication doesn't always reach everyone who needs to hear it. That's exactly why we're having this conversation today, because I've spent the last several weeks digging into what's actually happening, talking to people at local Social Security offices, and connecting with beneficiaries who've already been through this process. What I've learned is that this isn't just another bureaucratic headache. This is a fundamental shift in how the SSA is verifying identities, and it's happening whether we're ready for it or not. Let me paint you a picture of what's been going on behind the scenes. Over the past 2 years, the Social Security Administration has been dealing with an unprecedented wave of fraud attempts. We're talking about sophisticated scams where criminals are using stolen identities to redirect benefits, create fake accounts, and drain funds that should be going to legitimate beneficiaries. The numbers are staggering. In 2023 alone, the SSA prevented over $2.3 billion in fraudulent claims, but they estimate that millions more slipped through the cracks. So their response has been to implement what they're calling the Enhanced Beneficiary Verification System, or EBVS for short. Now, I know that sounds like government alphabet soup, but here's what it actually means for you and me. They're requiring every beneficiary to confirm their identity through a more rigorous process than we've had before, and they're doing it in phases. The November 18th deadline applies to anyone who receives Social Security retirement benefits, survivor benefits, or disability benefits and hasn't yet completed this new verification. If you receive supplemental security income, you're on a slightly different timeline, but you'll need to do this eventually too. Here's where things get really important, and I want you to listen carefully, because this is where a lot of people are getting tripped up. The SSA is requiring you to verify your identity through their online portal. And I know, some of you are thinking that you don't use computers, you've never created an online account, and you shouldn't have to start now. I hear you, and I actually agree that they should have better options for people who aren't comfortable with technology. But here's the reality we're dealing with. If you don't complete this verification by November 18th, your account gets flagged in their system. Once that flag goes up, your December payment gets held in what they call a pending status. That means the money doesn't get deposited into your bank account, your Direct Express card doesn't get loaded, and if you still get paper checks, they don't get mailed out. The payment just sits there in limbo until you complete the verification process. Now, you might be wondering how long it takes to fix this once your payment is delayed, and this is where I really want to emphasize the urgency of getting ahead of this deadline. Based on what happened in the pilot programs that ran in Arizona, Florida, and Pennsylvania earlier this year, we know that once your payment is flagged, you have to go through a verification process that can take anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks to fully resolve.
Think about what that means in practical terms. If your Social Security check normally arrives on the second Wednesday of the month and it gets delayed, you might not see that money until January. That's mortgage payments, utility bills, medication refills, groceries, all of the things you've budgeted for with the expectation that your check will be there when it's supposed to be there. And here's something that really bothers me about how this is being handled. The SSA isn't providing any kind of emergency payment or bridge loan while people are waiting for their verification to clear. You're just expected to figure it out on your own until they process your information. Let me tell you about what happened to some folks during those pilot programs, because I think it'll really drive home why we can't afford to wait on this. I spoke with a woman named Margaret from Tampa who missed the verification deadline in the Florida pilot program last spring. She's 71 years old, lives on her Social Security check of about $1,400 a month, and she simply didn't understand the notice she received in the mail. She thought it was one of those scam letters we're always being warned about, so she threw it away. When her April check didn't arrive, she called the Social Security hotline and spent 3 hours on hold before finally talking to someone who told her about the verification requirement. She immediately went to her local library to use their computers because she doesn't have internet at home, but even with help from the librarian, the verification process was confusing. She had to create a login.gov account, which required her to take a photo of her driver's license with a smartphone, then take a selfie, and then answer a series of security questions about her financial history. Margaret doesn't own a smartphone, so she had to borrow her grandson's phone, but then the photos weren't clear enough and kept getting rejected by the system. It took her 4 attempts over 2 weeks just to get through the photo verification part. Then, she had to wait another 3 weeks for the SSA to manually review her account because the automated system flagged something in her credit history that didn't match their records. By the time her benefits finally resumed, she had missed 2 full payments. She had to borrow money from her daughter to cover rent, she skipped some of her heart medications to save money, and she fell behind on her electric bill. All of this could have been avoided if she had known about the deadline and understood what she needed to do ahead of time. And Margaret's story isn't unique. I've heard from dozens of people who went through similar experiences in those pilot programs. There was a gentleman in Phoenix who missed his deadline by just 2 days and still had to wait 5 weeks for his payment to resume. There was a couple in Philadelphia where the husband receives benefits and the wife is his representative payee, and they couldn't figure out whether she needed to create an account in his name or her name, so they created both, which confused the system even more and delayed their payments for almost 2 months. These are real people dealing with real consequences because the SSA didn't do a good enough job explaining what was required and why it mattered so much. So let's talk about what you actually need to do to avoid becoming one of these stories. The first thing you need to understand is that this verification process requires you to create or access a My Social Security account on the SSA website. If you already have an account that you created in the past few years, you're halfway there, but you still need to log in and complete the new verification steps. If you've never created an account before, you're going to need to go through the full setup process. Now, I'm going to walk you through this step by step, and I want you to know that even though it might seem intimidating at first, hundreds of thousands of people have already done this successfully, and you can too. The key is to give yourself enough time and not try to rush through it at the last minute. The verification process starts at the Social Security Administration's official website, and this is crucial. You need to make absolutely sure you're on the real government website and not some fake scam site. The correct address is www.ssa.gov, and when you get there, you're looking for a button that says Sign In or Create an Account, or something very similar. When you click on that, you'll be redirected to a separate website called login.gov, which is the federal government's centralized login system. This is legitimate, even though it might feel strange to be leaving the SSA website. The government created login.gov as a single sign-on system that works across multiple federal agencies, so you'll use the same account for Social Security, the IRS, the Veterans Administration, and other government services. On the login.gov site, if you're creating a new account, you'll need to provide your email address and create a password. Make sure you use an email address that you actually check regularly, because they're going to send you confirmation codes and important notifications. Once you've set up your basic account, here's where the new verification requirements come in. Login.gov now requires what's called two-factor authentication, which means you need two different ways to prove you're really you. The first factor is your password, and the second factor can be either a code sent to your phone, a code sent to your email, an authentication app on your smartphone, or a physical security key. Most people choose the phone option because it's the most straightforward, but if you don't have a cell phone, the email option works too. After you've set up your two-factor authentication, you move on to the identity verification stage, and this is the part that trips people up. You have two options for verifying your identity. The first option is to use your smartphone to take photos of your government-issued ID and a selfie of yourself. The system uses facial recognition technology to match your selfie to the photo on your ID. If the system can verify you automatically, the whole process takes about 10 minutes. The second option, which is available if you don't have a smartphone or if the automatic verification doesn't work, is to schedule a video call with a login.gov agent who will verify your identity manually. These video appointments are available 7 days a week, but they're booking up quickly as the deadline approaches, which is another reason why you can't afford to wait until the last minute. During the verification process, whether it's automated or through a video call, you're going to need specific documents. You'll need your social security number, a valid state-issued driver's license or state ID card, and you might also need proof of your address like a utility bill or bank statement. Make sure these documents are current and that the name on all your documents matches exactly. If your driver's license still has your maiden name, but your social security benefits are under your married name, that mismatch can cause problems. If you've moved recently and your driver's license has your old address, you might need to provide additional documentation showing your current address. Once you've successfully verified your identity through login.gov, you're not quite done yet. You need to go back to the Social Security Administration website and log in using your new login.gov credentials. Once you're logged into your My Social Security account, look for a notification or banner at the top of the page about the Enhanced Beneficiary Verification. You'll need to click through that notification and confirm some additional information about your benefits. The system will ask you to verify your current address, your phone number, your bank account information for direct deposit, and answer some security questions about your benefit history. These questions might include things like when you first started receiving benefits, what your monthly benefit amount is, or whether you've had any changes to your payment method in the past year. The system is trying to make sure that not only are you who you say you are, but that you're the person who's actually been receiving these benefits all along. Now, I want to address something that I know is on a lot of people's minds. What if you're just not comfortable doing this online? What if you don't have access to a computer or a smartphone? What if you've tried to do this and you keep getting error messages or the system keeps rejecting your information? The Social Security Administration does have alternatives, but I have to be honest with you, they're not great. You can call the National Social Security Hotline at 1-800-772-1213 and request to complete the verification over the phone, but the wait times right now are astronomical. People are reporting waits of 3 to 5 hours, and sometimes the call drops before you ever reach an agent. You can also visit your local Social Security office in person, but most offices are requiring appointments, and the earliest available appointments in many areas are already past the November 18th deadline. Some offices are holding walk-in hours for urgent situations, but you might have to arrive before the office even opens to get in line, and you could still be waiting for several hours. This is why I'm so adamant that if you have any way to complete this online, even if it means asking a family member or friend to help you, that's going to be your fastest and most reliable path to getting this done before the deadline. And please, please be careful about who you ask for help. There are scammers out there who are taking advantage of this situation by offering to help people complete their verification for a fee. The Social Security Administration will never charge you to access your benefits or to complete verification. If someone is asking you for money to help with this process, that's a scam. Your best bet is to ask a trusted family member. Contact your local senior center to see if they have volunteers who can help, or reach out to your local area agency on aging, which often provides free assistance with exactly these kinds of government processes. I also want to talk about what happens after you've completed the verification, because this is important too. Once you've finished all the steps and confirmed your information, the system should give you a confirmation message. Take a screenshot of that confirmation if you can, or write down any confirmation number they give you. Then, within 24 to 48 hours, you should receive an email confirming that your verification is complete and your benefits will continue without interruption. Keep that email in a safe place. If for some reason your December payment doesn't arrive as scheduled, that confirmation will be crucial evidence that you completed the verification on time. Without it, you might have to go through the whole verification process again while you're trying to track down your missing payment.